I'm Turk Strongman at the Ranki Ramataraka. Thank you for selecting this next video on medical marijuana and your personal evolvement. We're going to talk about addictive tendencies in this one. But before I continue, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, then please take a moment right now and do it, and activate the notification bell feature at the same time. Share the joy of this channel with other people, please. One way to do that, easy way, is to give this video a thumb up. Others will see that. And comment courteously below this video in the comment section. Now, be aware, as a medical marijuana prescribee, user, or hell, I'm saying this is all about medical marijuana, but it's for anybody smoking weed, all right? And who is interested in self-mastery, personal evolvement, mental discipline, true selfhood. As opposed to, at least as opposed to, but for their own sakes as well, but also as opposed to consciousness hijacking and the perception deception. All right, now remember, marijuana is addictive. Cannabis is addictive. Most of it is physically addictive these days. It used to be taken years ago that marijuana was only psychologically addictive, and perhaps behaviorally addictive, like just the habit, the physical habit. Like cigarette smoking becomes a physical habit. That's a strong part of it that most of us don't really recognize in ourselves, but is there. If you try to quit, you find yourself fidgeting a lot. You want to stick something in your mouth. And often a replacement is like chew on licorice root or gum. You might get the munchies real bad just from not smoking weed, let alone with it. I mean, just because you have this thing you do with your hand in your mouth, all right? But anyway, no, it was more than that. Psychologically addictive too. In other words, you come to believe that you really should have it all the time. You want to do it. Because it's a mental habit. It's a mental habit. You're thinking about it. You feel obsessed with doing it. You feel compelled to do it. You've got to do it. It's what you do. The thinking goes into the action. Psychologically addictive. But when new strains came out that were better, bigger and better than the old Mexican or Colombian Red back in the 70s, late 70s. Then came higher power stuff. Indica started hitting the streets of the United States. More powerful stuff. Thai weed. Jamaican started coming over. Some of this stuff became, just Buddha Thai. I remember these things. Thai sticks. And then all the breeding here in the United States too. More and more polyploidal strains being developed. High power shit, such that if you really know the full spectrum of THC levels available, the different, products that are being grown and developed, cultivated, that what many people now call top shelf is really mid-grade because they're so much better. More designer type stuff. More. Not just stuff with a name, like White Wedding or PhD, whatever. Durban Poison. There's also other stuff that's much more expensive. Very elite type stuff. So anyway, any of this stronger stuff now, including the average named stuff now that's out, it's pretty good and it smells pretty skunky. It's physically addictive. It's strong enough to have reached that point It probably was very mildly before. Always has been, probably. But mildly. A minor thing. Unnoticeable, really. But the tendency, at least the potential, was there. And now, it's much more manifest. It's much more actualized, exemplified, instantiated, because of the greater power. The higher the THC content and other constituent chemicals. So it's physically addictive too. Now, we don't want, if we're interested in self-mastery, etc., which I've suggested you need to be if you're smoking medical marijuana or non-medical marijuana. I mean, if you're concerned about the quality of your life, your inner harmony, your harmony with other things, whatever, just well-being. Well, addiction is not a good idea to anything. The addictive mindset involves certain characteristics. Active addiction involves certain characteristics, such as a weakening of the will. A weakening, more concisely here, of one's access to and capacity to put to use universal power of will. Our shares of being called individual will. It gets weakened. That's practically a rule, a law. And something you keep doing is happening, at least in part, out of your control, but in control by an addiction, a habit, by the, as some would say, the thing itself. In this case, the weed. In other words, you're not the master of it. It's now the master of you. Then this weakens the will. Because any thought you have about not doing it doesn't get carried through. Besides, deep down inside, deep down inside, you know the truth. Whether you're in, in 100% control of your consumption of this thing, whatever it is, your engagement in it, this addictive thing, especially if physically addictive, meaning then your brain is involved, your cells are involved, your physical body is involved, your physiology, your neurotransmissions going on. Well, that's all your components then, man. Your emotional body, your astral body, your physical body, your mental body, if you want to call these bodies shells, layers, vibratory frequency ranges, whatever you want to call them. Well, now you got them all addicted. Wow. Which is not good. If you stop the addiction, your will have to be involved, and it will then strengthen. This follows the same principle as if you make a decision and don't follow through, you weaken your will. If you make a decision and you follow through, you strengthen your will. It's a muscle, right? It's like a muscle. It's a mental muscle. You can just call it like that, It's a mental muscle. The more you use it as it should be used, the stronger it gets. Poor use, ill use, non-use, weakens. If just let go, it weakens. It attenuates. If you're letting something else take over for it, like an addiction, then it weakens. That's the principle behind it. Behind this whole thing here. So stay away from addiction. Be aware, is what I'm saying. Now, you have a prescription. You have needs. You have medical situations, more likely consciousness situations, mental situations, psychological situations, consciousness, right? Well, then I don't know what your symptoms are that you're dealing with, that you're treating with medical marijuana. I don't know. I don't know. They're a little bit different for everybody. But there are a common few, anxiety, chronic pain, PTSD, affairs like that. I mean, there are others. Yes, there's a whole list. Well, depending on their severity and so forth, you decide how much gravity they have, how much they weigh, all put together. And on the other side of the scale, put the potential for addiction and its destructiveness. Which one weighs more? You're gonna, I guess you've decided to make a sacrifice if you're smoking medical marijuana. There is addiction there, and it will weaken your will. And that's just one problem with it, potential problem. But we're talking about using medical marijuana to its fullest potential in connection with your personal growth, your personal betterment, your personal improvement, your spiritual growth, etc. Health of your body, mind, soul, in harmony with one another. In these directions. So, spend some time not being high. Spend some time when desiring to get high. You don't. You just decide not to. If only for the reason to maintain at least a fair measure of control over the power of will. Your power of will, your individual will. At least for that, just to strengthen your will. I'm just saying, like when you want to smoke weed, sometimes just don't. Don't consider the difficulty in it, like I don't have strong enough will for that. No, do it because you're going to develop will. How about that as your reason? Just that. Just that reason, the mechanics of it. I'll do it to strengthen this muscle. I won't smoke weed right now. I'll wait an hour. Whatever. Just split it up a bit. Like splitting up self-mastery work among being high and not being high. Split it up. Do it both ways. Just like that. Also, just split up, being high and not being high. Generally. And be aware of potential drawbacks of being high. And getting addicted to it. Getting addicted to the substance. The actual substance. Physically. Like, in other words, comprehensively. Be aware of that. You want to have just... That's like replacing one evil with another. Dependency on a substance. I know a lot of people don't want to hear this. They don't want to believe it. But it's the truth. That's just the way it is. So use the substance. Don't let it use you. And don't always use it. Or it will use you. Because it's addictive. Just for that. And that's a major thing. Especially if you're interested in the reasons why these videos right here exist on this channel, in this playlist. There you go. See you in the next video. Thanks for selecting this one. Subscribe, get notified, share, like, comment. What else is there? Be well.